what does it mean for you, Rupert, to focus more, to suffer more in imagination than in reality?
I think we inherently either look too far forward or dwell too far back.
Mm-hmm.
We're never actually in what's in front of us right now.
Do you have an example
Um,
from your personal life?
I was always very angry at my past, in that I felt like why I wasn't achieving what I wanted to achieve right now was because of that. And I would blame things on that.
That's another thing. You can't really control your past.
No. And I would spend more time suffering, dwelling on the future, because my expectation of the future was more than I exceeded. More than I had wanted for myself. And I think that also with problems, if I was faced with an issue, I would immediately think it was far worse than what the issue was. I'm very much that kind of person, because in my family, like if there was a problem, the reaction is it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Do you know, like it's
yes.
and like I talk with my mum about this all the time, because it was instilled from her mum, which was if there was an issue, I would immediately go to worst case scenario, immediately, like the worst of the worst. And
that's so my mum, man.
I would sit and suffer in that this is going to be the worst thing that's ever going to happen to me. That's it, done. Worst case scenario, planning for worst case scenario. Okay, worst case scenario is definitely going to happen, so I need to have this contingency, and then worst case would never happen. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah. But then as well, you start to, if you think about the worst case scenario, you kind of start to prepare yourself for that worst case scenario. So as an example, you think that you're going to get sacked from the job, so you start applying for different jobs, and then it's just like, where is the evidence that you're going to get sacked from the job? It's just I guess
or like other examples being that like people can't, I don't know, come to tell that people are so scared to own up to things or take accountability, or because they're always just like, the world's going to end. My world is going to inherently end because I've already planned it in my head. I already know that this is going to be the only case that's going to happen. When actually in reality, it never quite happens like that. And I think we do suffer more in imagination, because I think we're, as creatures, have a tendency to think too much.
As well, we just, I guess, as humans,
overthink.
Overthink, and then we are afraid of uncertainty. We want to know everything here and now. We don't want any random stuff happening in life. We want to be in control of everything that's happening, but that's not the case. And again, it goes back to the first law, that focus on what you can control, what you can't.
Yeah, and like I'd say I'm getting better at it now, but I'd say really in the last, I was a massive overthinker. I would overthink everything. I would overthink everyone's responses. I would overthink text messages that I would send to people. Like if I sent a WhatsApp to someone, I'd be like, oh, like, should we go for like a drink or something? Should we go on a date? Like I would overthink and be like, nah, she doesn't want to fucking, or do you know what I mean?
Hey,
like,
I'm the same.
I would overthink everything, and I would get it inside my head so much. And I think if you're one of those people that gets inside of those head, it's kind of, and this is something I learned from James, he's kind of like my coach, mentor. He was kind of saying like kicking the worry down the road, as in like, don't worry about that problem because the problem hasn't even happened yet.
Yes, that's it. Like
why
you should worry about it if it's not even there? No?
Like why are you preparing for a problem that hasn't happened?
Yeah.
Like by all means, when the problem happens, then worry about it then, but the problem hasn't happened, so don't worry about it. And it was that where I was like, so you're telling me it's just a case of just kicking it down? I can't do that. Like that's way too easy to be said than done. But I kept every problem that I had that I was overthinking, worrying on. I was like, I'm not going to worry about that right now. Yeah. Not until I have to.
Yeah.
And it's helped me massively, just kicking it away.
Yeah, I remember I used to be afraid of sending voice notes because I was afraid of what people gonna think about my voice.
Well, yeah, you know, um, and I don't like listening back to voice notes anyway. Just any, like in general, but
You don't like listening to
I'm
yours?
so bad at
Have
listening.
you tried to listen to
It's
podcasts though?
really painful for me to
Have you
listen to
tried
this.
to listen to podcasts?
Yeah, it's like doing those timestamps. There's something I fucking hate about my voice. I absolutely hate the sound of my own voice. Like, and
I think I got better at listening my own voice because when I used to work in social media marketing, I used to send video messages to business owners because it's a different way of approaching people. But those first times when I listen, it's like just like, hey everyone,
but do you
nah,
think
I'm
that's
not listening to
because?
that.
Do you think that's because you think people are judging the sound of your voice, or is that just you judging the sound of your
It's
voice?
probably me judging. I don't think everyone, because the way I think about it, yeah, if I would look someone else's voice note, I wouldn't judge them like they just send me a voice
Obviously
note.
not, because it's their voice. You
Yeah,
know what they sound
yeah.
like. You're not going to be
But
like, "Oh,
then
you
when I
sound like a
yeah, but
dick."
then when I listen to myself, it's like, oh, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why do I sound like that?
yeah, yeah. It's
It's
crazy.
yeah. It's and again, that's overthinking. That's kind of living in imagination, not reality. Um, but I think we've always got to remember that you'll never worry about someone else's jewelry more than they will. You'll never worry about someone else's problems more than they will. You'll never worry about someone's job more than they will.
Hmm.
And the same goes for you. Like, no one gives a fuck about you. And I think that's also really important to understand when living more in a reality mindset than imagination, is that you'll always worry about you more than others will. And it's, yeah, removing that sense of overthinking in imagination, because the imagination can run wild. You can run however far you want with it,
Yeah,
but the reality is always now.
that's it.
And it's never ends up being, at least in my, when studying that law and living by that law of like, okay, this is in my head,
Hmm.
it helped me get more realistic.
Just one thing as well. I remember when I was in Thailand, I met this guy. His name is Omar. Shout out to Omar if he's watching. Really cool guy. And I remember I was when so we were both training in the same gym, and I remember he was preparing for his fight and I was preparing for my fight. We were supposed to fight on different days, and we always, obviously, when you fight, you always talk like, how do you feel? What do you think about like the guy you're fighting? Just these little things, um, and I'm never really afraid to tell people that I'm afraid. Like, it's
Yeah.
just a natural thing, and I just told him like, yeah, man, I'm a bit anxious and I'm a bit worried. And what he said, I think it changed everything so much at the situations at the way I look at the situations. So he said, what's the point of you sitting down and worrying when you know that you're going to eventually go there and fight? He's like, he was saying, I remember we were in, and it's like, just worry on the day, like, chill now, like, you just eat your food, you're gonna go to sleep, you wake up tomorrow, go training, you're not fine today, you're not fine tomorrow, you're fine in a week's time, so worry then, don't worry now. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, like, why I'm putting that extra energy, the negative energy in the first place, while I'm here now with my friends just enjoying food. And that really changed the way I look at the future worries.
And it's hard because I think that there are so many worries that you can worry about, whether it's like financial and family worries or
Yeah.
all of these stresses that come in. But I think it's remembering that your mind does have a tendency to run away with itself.
Hmm.
And like you say, the reality is now, and the problem are there when you need to face them, not preempting, trying to prevent every problem that comes your way in a week's time or tomorrow or or like however long or whatever. Like, you
Yeah.
can't prepare for everything all at once all the time. And it's, yeah, removing those problems and dealing with them until they get there.